Welcome. I'm Steve Todd, and I'm delighted to be your worship leader this morning. One thing I love about this congregation is the plethora of opportunities to do good. There are a lot of them. Whether it's comforting a fellow church member who you know has been ill, or signing up to serve coffee, or being on a committee, or enacting justice with one of our committees. In fact, enacting justice and connecting bravely and deepening spiritually and always loving is just maybe another way to say doing good. And those are the things that we do. I want to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who's visiting us for the first time today. Rather than gathering because we all have the same beliefs, at UUCB we are an intentional community gathered around our shared promise to support each other's individual spiritual journeys. We are also intentional about bringing all ages together. In today's world, that often doesn't happen, but we think it's important to have an adult friend ask a child or youth how they did on that science test they were worried about. And a 30-year-old and a 71-year-old chat about life while having coffee after the service. If you're here in person, I hope you'll stay and join us for fellowship after the service and tell us a little bit about yourself. If you're joining us online, please fill out a visitor form in the link in the description. We'd love to connect with you through that. And now, Reverend David has an announcement.
It is with joy and a little bit of sadness that we share the news you may have seen already that our wonderfully creative, collaborative pianist, Ben Thompson, has won a position with the Air Force Band of Middle America at Scott Air Force Base. Ben's last Sunday with us is going to be March 26th, so there is plenty of time to soak up his music yet and to wish him well. Deborah, of course, our music director, and I are going to start the process of seeking a new musician to join us and figure out the future of the music program. But I hope that you'll take some time in these next few Sundays to wish Ben well on this news and his exciting journey. Friends, will you take a breath with me? And another. We arrive at this moment out of 100 different individual lives. We arrive at this moment remembering the ways that we're connected to each other, remembering the ways, hoping to remember the ways that we're united even when every particular circumstance of our life is different, the ways that we're united still. Come into this house with all of who you are. Come in just as you are. Come in to be the person you're becoming. We rise in body or in spirit. Let's open in song.
So every soul
our 9 a.m. service, which happens on the other side of that wall in the sky room, a little smaller, a little less formal. Our 9 a.m. service is the one where all of our elementary school kids have classes. And so in the service this morning, I told them I'm going to give them a riddle and a show and tell. I'm going to do the same for you. Here's the riddle. How do you change everything without changing anything? How do you change everything without changing anything? That's the riddle part. And here comes the show and tell. By a show of hands, who has ever seen one of these before? It's a reel-to-reel magnetic tape. All right, a few more hands come up. I will admit, I had never seen one of these until I went looking in the archives last night. I don't know what, maybe this is from the 1820, no. It's actually not from that long ago. And it's just a magnetic tape that you can record sound onto. In this case, it's something from 1961. And I don't know if we have a player for it, but it is carefully stored in our archives. But then I ask, who, by a show of hands, knows what this is? Okay, that was about every hand. Nobody under 10 has seen one of these. Possibly no one under 20. This is a cassette tape. And in fact, Sally, where's Sally? This is a recording of you, something you gave in July of 2005. So, if you're wondering, in our archives. And the cassette tape is essentially just a reel-to-reel magnetic tape in smaller form. But then we get to the easier stuff. Everybody knew what this was. Yeah, it's a CD. So what you have is several very, very different ways of solving the same problem. Ways that everything changes, but also doesn't. Similarly, and mostly for the education of the young, I showed them what this was. Do you know what this is? Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's a VHS tape, which stands for something. So it's same idea. You've got a magnetic tape on a ribbon, and it goes along, and the reader decodes it, and you get a very poor quality picture. This is, I'm not sure what this is from. I think this is from 10 maybe? This is DVD. This is tablet. Yeah, exactly. Something changed very dramatically in every one of the things I held up, but also stayed exactly the same. And that riddle, what changes without changing, that riddle is also true of our own lives. The things that you cared about at age 6, some of them, I would bet, at age 6, things you cared about like fairness, treating other people well, things you experienced like being curious, or being thankful, or being amazed, you still feel those same things, however many years later it's been. You still feel that stuff. And you might use very different words to talk about it. You might tell different stories. Your experience of what that means, what does gratitude mean or feel or look like, that might be as profoundly different as a reel-to-reel is from a Blu-ray. But it's also just the same. Some of the things important have been and will be important your whole life. And even if the technology you use for them, if the words you use to describe them change, it's still the same. Our values, the things we care the most about, stay the same even as we talk about them and understand them and draw the meaning of them in ever new and wider ways.
The chalice is the symbol of our liberal faith. It is the warmth of compassion, the fire of justice, a lamp on the spiritual path. If you're joining us online and have a chalice nearby, please get ready to light it with us. Here in the earth room, I'd like to invite Carol Teal to light this morning's chalice.
Good morning. My name is Carol Teal, and I want to share one of the many reasons this beloved community is so important to me. This is the fourth UU community I've had the privilege of belonging to in the past 4 decades. All of my UU communities have played an important role in my life. My first UU community in North Carolina saved my life in helping me find peace at the core of my being when life threw me almost too many challenges for a young woman to handle all at once. My second UU community helped me raise my son and gave us the opportunity to be involved for many years in the religious education program. My third UU community in California helped me process my continuing lifelong learning while studying the history of worldwide Christianity and coming to terms with the heartbreaking history of colonization. This UU community has blessed my life in many ways. In addition to cherished friendships I have here, I'm also thankful for the perspective and grounding it gives me as I continue to be involved in the political world as a retired person. As my heart breaks at the inhumanity of humanity, this community reminds me that there are people of goodwill who work hard to bend the arc of the moral universe towards justice. So I light this candle to recognize the open minds, the loving heart, and the helping hands that this community is. I never remember how this works.
To covenant is to commit, that even if we fall short of our aspirations, we will not let go of them. We will never cease from trying again to live them out. In that spirit, gathered in person and online, will you all speak together our covenant aloud? And I think in keeping with today's theme, I'll make one comment. All the words don't have to be allowed. I've heard some of you leave off the word divine at the end of the fourth line. Or you might say sublime, if that fits your faith better. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth. So be it.
Just in the last couple of weeks, someone sent me a copy of all the ways that that statement has been capitalized over the years, with some mention of perhaps the arguments over which words should be capitalized and shouldn't. About that more later in the service. Will you join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation? Let's begin with a breath together. And another slower. Part of the reason we set aside in the service each week time for deliberate spiritual practice, whatever form it takes, is that too often in life we tend to operate on the default assumption that we can think our way into different kinds of action. Well, that may be so, but spiritual practice is a reminder that we act our way into different kinds of thinking, too. We practice gratitude in order to become people who feel gratitude. We lift up in ritual the joys and the sorrows of our life in order that we make visible to ourselves and each other that, in fact, we are carrying joys and sorrows with us, and we're not alone in it. And so, as I invite you into silence together, that's our work. The silence of meditation is not an emptiness or an absence. It's active, it's motion in stillness, changing and unchanged. In that spirit of stillness, of allowing our bodies and our minds to quiet down, I invite you to sit comfortably, to breathe deeply, and to be together in silence for 7 slow breaths. Amen. Ritual is an outward expression of an inward movement that unfolds sometimes over years. In moving our bodies, in placing stones to symbolize our joys and sorrows, we're gardeners of our souls, our spirits, ourselves. We're tending and training and teaching ourselves to recognize that hope and suffering are woven into our daily living, both. We're gardeners of our spirits, becoming a people who recognize the beauty and the tragedy, which are what it is to be alive. For those gathered in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel moved, silently to take a stone and feel its weight. Let the stone be an emblem of your thankfulness or your worry or both, and then place it in the sacred earth in the company of all the joys and sorrows of this gathered community. For all our hopes and our griefs, we hold this compassionate space with love. We are a tradition in constant revision. Our principles maybe should be written in pencil, not because we change them on a whim, but because we know that they need to change as the times change. Our Unitarian forebear, Henry David Thoreau, which was pronounced that way, lived outside of Boston in the 1800s. He was a naturalist, a poet, a writer, a philosopher. Thoreau was an ardent abolitionist, an ecologist, and environmentalist before those words even existed. Experience of the holy was the thing for him. After the sermon, the Cats are going to play a song by Peter Mayer called "Everything is Holy Now." That God, the divine, the sacred, the wondrous all around us, that is Thoreau. But his family business, the business which paid his bills and let him live deliberately, was pencil making. Had he not written 20 volumes of essays and correspondence, we would still remember him because he created the graphite pencil. It's about the level of excitement I would expect for that revelation. Yeah, good, yeah. So among the books that Thoreau would have read would surely have been the works of Joseph Priestley. Priestley was a British Unitarian in the 1700s. He was also a scientist and a chemist. Priestley was the first person to isolate oxygen in the atmosphere. He invented artificial carbonation. Okay, I would have expected that more than pencils, but okay. And he earned many enemies by arguing that his scientific work and his rational reading of the Bible absolutely had a home and place within Christianity. Reason and tradition had things to learn from each other, had tools to inform each other. So it's fitting that Priestley also invented the rubber eraser. I would have put carbonation above that, but both the pencil and the eraser, I love it though, both the pencil and eraser were invented by people who belonged to our religious tradition without fixed creeds. They were ready to revise. And the commitments that those two men had to cultivate and seek out direct experience of the holy, to bring your thinking mind into your religious life, to take the teachings of tradition as inspiration instead of straitjacket, those are commitments we still have, even if we express them in really different terms today. A creed is a short, authoritative statement of belief. If you grew up Catholic, I did not, but if you grew up Catholic, maybe you remember, I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, all things visible and invisible. Some of you could probably finish the rest of that, even all these years later. That's a creed. It's like a bullet point list of all the things that you have to believe and exactly how you have to believe them. There's a lot of description and nuance maybe behind it, but in many other denominations, a creed is a tool to keep theology singular. There is one right way to think, and the creed articulates that. For the last couple of weeks, in an example of very poorly targeted online advertising, I've been getting church advertisements for a new congregation. I am, in fact, quite happy with my existing congregation. But the advertisement is this very sort of like warm, invitational, hopeful thing. And I clicked through it because we're redoing our church website here this spring. So I'm in this mode of looking for inspiration. I always like looking at church websites. And I'm in the right job. So on their website, they don't have a section called Creed, but they have a page that says what we believe. And among the things on that page are statements like the Bible is the inerrant, infallible Word of God. Marriage is as God created it between one man born at birth and one woman born at birth. and a whole lot of other things that I think are clearly ridiculous. But that's a creed, right? The creed is a measuring stick to determine what is allowed in and what is not allowed in, what ideas are not allowed in. When the Nicene Creed was developed in the 4th century, that's the one I started just a moment ago, it was at the bidding of the Roman Emperor Constantine, who wanted to set boundaries that standardized Christianity. But as Unitarian Universalists, we're not bound together by a shared creed that we all believe in exactly the same way. We're united instead by a shared process, by a shared principle, a shared set of principles, values, commitments about how we're going to do religion together. And the 7 principles up here, this is one way of articulating things commonly believed among us. But it's not definitive. And you know, they are not written in pencil, but maybe they should be, because there's nothing magical or perfect or permanent about these 7 principles. It's just a best shared attempt so far to describe our common approach to the world. A friend once told me about coming to church. He said, I don't believe every single theological statement and word that's used. I don't believe every single thing that we sing when we sing it, or that we say when we say it. And I know a lot of people in that worship don't believe all the things that get said, and that's okay. I have an experience in worship that opens my heart and engages my mind and often puts me to work for justice in the world. And there's a ritual that connects me to something transcendent, something bigger than myself, and there's enough space for me to make sense of it in my own way. So here we are living in this theological pluralism. But how did we end up here? Because the traditional Protestant solution to theological disagreements, the traditional solution is to split and make new churches. But we didn't. Unitarians began the 19th century firmly as Christians, and both Priestley and Thoreau understood themselves to be Christians. By the second half of the 19th century, within the space of 2 or 3 generations, Unitarians were already a theologically plural community that included Christians and mystics and transcendentalists and humanists and atheists and seekers looking beyond Christian traditions to other faiths. At that time, 150 years ago, one minister said of his own congregation, "They may differ as to their opinions of Jesus' nature. One may think that he is very God, another that he is a superhuman made before all words, another that he was a man made in all respects like his brethren. Yet as God or archangel or man, all are ready to confide in his power, all believe his teachings, that is, to love and obey his commandments and reverence his character." Their belief is very different, but their faith is the same. How then to articulate a shared faith without creed? In 1887, this question gets pointed at a meeting of the Western Unitarian Conference, headquartered in Chicago, the West. The Western Conference is full of humanists, Unitarians for whom the Christian story is just not that important. It's not the animating story. It may have lovely or inspiring or beautiful things to say, but it's one among many. The trouble is they are sitting literally, just like you are, humanists and Christians, this morning, and so many others, sitting shoulder to shoulder in pews with Unitarian Christians. And most everyone feels like they still belong, still share a commitment to that same set of most important things. So they figure out the language to articulate it like this. They adopt, by a vote of 59 to 13, because they were democratically governed back then too, they adopt a statement that says things like, we believe that to love the good, with capital G, to love the good and to live the good is the supreme thing in religion. We hold reason and conscience to be final authorities in matters of religious belief. We honor the Bible and all inspiring scripture, old and new. 1887 this is. And then this last piece, there's a number of others. They say, we worship one in all, that life whence suns and stars derive their orbit, and the soul of man its ought. That light which lighteth every man that cometh into the world, giving us power to become the sons of God. That love, with a capital L, that love with which our souls commune. And I find these words so beautiful, even though I would write it in a different way. I find them beautiful because I hear in them a wrestling, an attempt, a struggle to articulate a shared experience felt in different ways. I don't hear, despite all the clauses of that last one, I don't hear in that wordsmithing. I don't hear them like sort of vaguely hedging their bets, let's not be specific and cover everything. I don't hear them attempting to get it perfect once and for all. I hear them exactly as we do, pointing to something bigger than a specific creed or tradition, gesturing towards an experience, a sense that the name by which you call the holy is not what the holy is, trying to articulate a map which they are so clear is not the territory. By 1936, that old language didn't quite fit anymore, and the Unitarian Commission on Appraisal, this group which got together every 4 years to take up some particularly weighty or complicated question, they did a project to list both the things that people agreed on and the things they disagreed on. I appreciate that. Their report comes back with, we're pretty sure about this stuff, but there is not much consensus on this stuff over here. For example, they said, we all more or less agree about the need for worship as a deliberate effort to strengthen the individual's grasp of the highest spiritual values of which they're aware. That is, we all agree, spiritual practice, vitally important to make our values real in our lives. But they continued, we disagree about the expediency of using the traditional vocabulary of religion within a fellowship which includes many who have rejected ideas commonly associated with such words as God, prayer, communion, salvation, divine. I love that nuance to it. We all agree spiritual practice, vitally important, make our values real. But there's no consensus on the right words to use to do it. By listing points of agreement and disagreement, they make clear that articulating what we believe, for all of us together as a body, just like for us individually, it's a descriptive process. It's trying to describe, to articulate things commonly believed. It's not a prescriptive process, instructing us on what we're going to. Now, if you were raised in a tradition with a very clear creed, a definite and specific list of things you were required to believe, that you left and eventually came here, it may be that the 7 principles up here, consciously or unconsciously, have slid right into the vacancy once occupied by that former creed. A formulation that encompasses everything that needs to be said, a starting point for everything that there is to be known about us and our religious life. But I think a better analogy here is that these principles are much more like a group photo taken once a year. It's a snapshot in time of who's in the room and what we look like that year. In 1961, when the Unitarians and the Universalists merged to form the Unitarian Universalist Association, or denomination, the principles they adopted have some relationship to our current 7 principles. For example, they said their first was to strengthen one another in a free and disciplined search for truth as the foundation of our religious fellowship, or to affirm, defend, and promote the supreme worth of every human personality, the dignity of man, and the use of the democratic process in human relations. So there's resonance here. But those 1961 principles were never really central. By and large, no one went out and made art out of the 1961 principles. And by 1980, hardly anyone really remembered what they were. The first push for change to those originals, I say original, which of course was not original, came from the UU Women's Federation, who in the late 1970s pointed out that male-gendered language was not, in fact, automatically all-inclusive. A world community founded on ideals of brotherhood, it turns out that language choice was not understood as innocuous and universal, but representative of an entrenched male-centeredness. It said that normal and universal means men. Guys in the room, you already know that's not the case. Some people never understood that critique. I read about this lovely sort of textbook definition of mansplaining, where various men explained to the women working on this, oh, no, mankind doesn't leave you out. That mindset that men are universal and normal was as entrenched then, and I say this as a person who grew up after the second wave of feminism. I'm an inheritor of this as a common sense idea. But the mindset that men equals universal and normal was as entrenched then as the gender binary is today. The notion that man or woman covers everyone, and that's normal and universal, and it doesn't leave anyone out. Well, in fact, it does. So, we get the eraser out, we go back to the pencil, we figure out how do we do this better. Because our task is not to believe in the 7 principles. Our task is to grapple with the thing that they're pointing towards. The 7, you know that old analogy, the finger pointing at the moon? And if you look at the finger, you miss the moon entirely. In every generation, we have to ask, is the finger still pointing at the right thing? You know, the moon moves. We don't want the finger to be pointing at where it used to be. Have we got the directions right? So these principles are designed to continually change and develop over time. They're important, they're useful as a means to an end, as a map whose purpose is to get us out exploring the territory, as an orientation toward a set of values and commitments that could be expressed in lots of different ways. And so for the last 2 years now, the Unitarian Universalist Association has appointed a commission in the process of proposing new revisions to our principles, a wholesale revision. If we did not have these at all, where would we start from? What would that look like? How would we articulate that? The idea originally at merger was that these would get overhauled every 15 years or so. This version's almost 40 now, and there have been different proposals over the years. But when those have come up, a sense of, well, these don't do too much better than what we've got. Next week, I'll share more and we can dig into together what does that new proposal look like. But for today, what I want to suggest is that the notion of change is deep inside this tradition which claims the inventor of both pencil and eraser, a search for meaning. collectively and individually, rooted in an experience of the transcendent, informed by history, welcoming of critical reason, calling us to make justice real in the world, and fed by our always interdependent community. That's our shared search. That's our collective path. And that is our individual journey. Amen. Friends, will you rise in body or spirit to sing together?
We're going to ask you to be reseated and to rise as the music may move you toward the end of the song. Thank you. I hope it does. When I was a girl each week, on Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest, and he would read the holy word, and consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was at Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two. Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still, and now I can't keep track of them, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. Used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. Now I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face. See, it's not a testament, and it might be very hard to say. See, another new morning come. See, it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now.
Through the month of February, we split our offering with Hope for Longmont, homeless outreach providing encouragement. Hope provides the only year-round overnight service center for the homeless community in Longmont, while offering supportive follow-through services. The overnight center offers showers, laundry, hot meals, and storage. The case management team supports those they serve to get back on their feet and into housing. They also provide year-round street outreach services to connect with individuals who are on our streets. Safe Lots is a project of Hope which provides a safe place for people living in their cars to park and to have a free hot dinner inside a warm building and to use restrooms. The Unitarian group in Longmont, Loop, the Longmont UU Presence, volunteers to provide dinner for one of the 2 Safe Lots in Longmont twice each month. So, we share our offering with Hope. I invite you to give as generously as you are able. For those online, you can use the QR code or find a link in the video description. For those gathered here in person, you can scan this QR code or make a donation as the ushers now pass the baskets. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
We receive this offering with gratitude. As we close our service, I have a few invitations. Wine and Spirit, our monthly gathering of 20s and 30s-ish folks, meets this Wednesday for dinner and conversation. Stop by the Connection Corner, chat with Irene in the Sky Room after the service for details, directions. Next Sunday after the service, we still have a few slots open for a free half-hour CPR and AED training. Sign up with Sam in the office. We want as many people as possible to know these life-saving tools. And finally, in 1 week from tomorrow, we will be repainting the wall behind me right now. We would love, if you are free on Monday or Tuesday next week and want to stop by, we would love you to help be a part of taping and painting and all that good stuff. Sign up with Irene at the Connection Corner, or come back the following week and just enjoy it. Our words of benediction, a good word, and encouragement, a charge, come from the 20th century Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams. He says this of the path we follow all together and individually. He says, a living tradition is not bequeathed through some law of inheritance. It must be earned, not without dust and heat, and not without humbling grace. May it be so for us. We rise in body or spirit. We'll close in song.